guys, it's Kristen, and today I'm really excited to share with you a phone interview I did with Joseph Cross. You may know him as an actor from numerous projects, including Big Little Lies, and now he just made his directorial debut with the film Summer Night, starring Lana Condor, Victoria Justice, and so many awesome young stars. I had a lot of fun talking with this fellow New Yorker, so without further ado, check out my interview. Can you tell us a little bit about Summer Night and what made you interested in being a part of this film?
It was really Jordan Jolliffe's script. He and I met through a mutual friend who is an executive producer on the movie, and we were just sort of sharing material. Like I had written a script that wasn't very good, and he was trying to help me to make it better, and was very generous at the time. So I was saying, send me anything you want me to read, whatever he sent me. Summer Night was the first script he ever wrote when he was in school at Chico State. And I just thought it was great. There was just something really, really honest and emotional and heartfelt and warm about it. I just thought it was really, really special. So at first I said to him, I'll do anything I can to help you get this movie made. And I thought maybe I'd help him find a filmmaker and produce it or something like that. But then after we were working on the script for 6 months, I said, I think I want to direct this. Would you be open to that? And he was. And Jordan was working for James Postle at the time. So we approached James to ask if he would become an executive producer and kind of lend his clout to the film, which he very, very generously did. And then from there, we were able to start getting some traction.
Now, what we all know you best from is acting in projects like Jack Frost or Big Little Lies. Mm-hmm. But with this film, you're diving into directing for the first time. So what was that like, kind of putting on that different hat?
I really loved it, and it felt like a natural progression. I've been acting for 25 years, so, I had an interest in filmmaking from the very beginning. When I was 8 years old, I loved movies, and we would make little movies in the yard and that whole thing, and from there I got into acting. So it wasn't until I was, approaching my 30th birthday, I guess, that I found the script and all sort of came together, and I thought, this is the next step for me creatively in this line of work. But, I also had a lot to learn. So I had spent a lot of time on set and absorbed a lot from working with filmmakers, but I had never been part of the prep process, and I had certainly never been part of the edit. So, I had a lot to learn in terms of, what's the style of the movie going to be? How are you going to tie all these storylines together? When are you going to move the camera and why? And what's the feeling you want to elicit from that camera movement? What's the soundscape of the movie going to be? So you try to determine what all that's going to be before, so that you get everything you need, and then when you're in the edit is when you really sort of figure out what the movie actually is.
That's so incredible, because it's like it opens up a whole different world of, kind of like the film and television space, like new things to learn.
Yeah, it is, and it was awesome for me because, like when you do anything for over 2 decades, you start to, want to expand a little bit and try new things. And so it all kind of came together nicely, and it was a pretty natural progression, even if it was a steep learning curve.
Impressive. That's incredible. The other thing that I love about this film is that you have such an impressive cast. You have, all of these people that are rising right now. Lana Condor, Analeigh Tipton, Victoria Justice. How did the ensemble for this come together?
There's no casting director on the film, and I had no, quotas that I had to hit in terms of foreign financing. We didn't. I don't know if you know about. Sometimes people put their budgets together by using foreign pre-sales, and so you have to get certain actors to do that. But we were just financed with equity, and we were self-financed. We raised all the money ourselves, so I didn't have any of those requirements. So what I was able to do was really just watch movies and TV shows with actors that were of the right age group, and start just finding people watching Hayden Zito in The Edge of 17. I'm like, this guy's amazing. How can I wonder if he would, come and play Caleb for me, and reach out to his reps, and they're into it. And so, Hayden and I sit down and say, you want to come make this movie? He says yes. And, that was really how I did it. It was a very natural, organic process. I had no interest in auditioning 400 people for every part. That sounds like no fun for them and totally unnecessary. When somebody was right for the part, I knew they could act. I would approach them and ask them if they wanted to be in the movie. And sometimes they would say yes. And there were a couple people that auditioned just because there was like, maybe they had great dramatic work but hadn't done anything comedic, or there were certain tricky parts of scenes that I wanted to see how they would navigate, but I was never auditioning more than one person at a time. Like, I was never bringing in, 10 people to read for this role. If somebody auditioned, it was very, very targeted, and it was just so that we could be sure that they were the right person.
You have a great cast, and I think you also, in this film, talk about really interesting and relevant kind of like social issues, and I was wondering how you kind of tackled that, especially when pairing it with this young cast.
Yeah, so, the movie is, it's not heavy, it's not laborious, it is fun and has its lighter moments, but it does certainly deal with this overarching issue of changes that come in your early to mid-20s. And, I think the movie doesn't sugarcoat who it believes is the superior gender. I mean, the girls really have it worked out much better than the boys. The boys are running around like chickens with their heads cut off, and you're thinking like, oh, just listen to these girls, guys. You know what I mean? Follow what they're saying. But I think for the young men, the characters in the movie, the struggle is, are they going to lean further into the hedonism and indulgence of youth, like the Justin Chatwin character of Andy, or are they going to find greater purpose in living for the people that love them and the people that they love? That's their fork in the road, and the two archetypes are demonstrated by Chris Davis's Luke, who seems to be more satisfied, even if he's sleep deprived and stressed and wanting for more time out with his friends. And then the opposite of that is Justin Chatwin's Andy, who, while seemingly, he has it all in terms of his freedoms, he's not totally satisfied.
One other thing I wanted to mention is the music, the soundtrack to this film. Really incredible. I don't know if you had any certain thoughts when you kind of were going into that.
Yeah, we have two great music supervisors, Rob Lowry and Rylan Thompson. Rob and I worked from basically when I first read the script on building the sound of this movie and the soundtrack, and we started with the Whitney album, Light Upon a Lake, and that was sort of our North Star, and we've got two Whitney songs at the end of the movie. And actually, that was an album I would always listen to when I didn't feel centered or didn't feel focused on what the movie was and the tone and the feel. I would throw that album on, and it was always able to center me again and get me focused back on the material. And so, yeah, Rob and Rylan would just send me different bands that they thought were right, and we started piecing the soundtrack together. And then we found these three exceptional bands to play in the middle of the movie. I knew I really wanted a diverse soundscape for the show itself. I wanted very different bands that still made sense sharing the stage and sharing one show. So we were able to find these three awesome bands, Ruby the Rabbit Foot, the Ghost Choir, and Deep State. And then our actors learned how to play the songs, and we stuck them up there in the band. And yeah, that was kind of it. And so a lot of it was pre-planned, and then a lot of it was, once we got into the edit, we were just, adding more layers to the soundtrack. And most of the songs in the movie are source music. Like, most of it is music that's meant to be playing there in the scenes with the characters, songs that the characters themselves are listening to. So, you really get another way into these characters' lives quickly. And then, for the music that the bands were playing, I wanted all those songs, both lyrically and musically, to reflect the emotional dilemmas that those characters are going through while they're playing that music.
That's awesome. I love when productions go deep like that, when you can really see like how it connects to the story and the characters.
Thanks. Yeah, it was really important to me.
And now, this film takes place in, one summer night. What's the perfect summer night to you?
Oh, man, that's funny. Well, it certainly has changed as I've gotten older. I think, when I was 15, my perfect summer night was like going to a woods party on the golf course in Pelham, where I grew up. Well, now, I mean, a perfect summer night is like, you know, like what I'm doing right now, hanging with my family at the beach. And it's interesting. I've had a lot of similar changes in my life as we've been making this movie. Before, when I first read the script, we were discussing having kids, and then when we started putting the movie together, my wife, Audrey Tomasini, is a producer on the film. She was pregnant, and then by the time we were shooting the movie, our first child had already been born, our daughter, Amelia.
Congratulations.
Oh, thanks. Thanks so much. Not to give it too heavy of an answer to your question, what's your perfect summer night, but my priorities, you know, what makes me happy has certainly evolved the past few years the same way that it does for the characters.
That's awesome. And is there anything else that you want to share about the film?
You know, I just was so fortunate as a first-time filmmaker in having such an extraordinary crew and cast. Michael Fitzmaurice, my cinematographer, was down for anything. You know, when I said to him, when we first meet the club, the Alamo, I want to start on the marquee, and it's going to pop on, and we're going to go down to find the boys, and the cop car's going to pull up, the Taylor's going to get in, and we're going to follow them into the club. We're going to do a full 360 around Callan so that we can get a real vibe of what this space is like, and then we're going to end right on the stage. And Michael was like, cool, why don't we throw a time lapse at the top from the clock tower? And I was like, I love this guy. This guy and I are going to get along great. So, you know, fantastic cinematographer Raymond Wood, our editor, who's like my right hand, did everything for this movie, including, you know, you wouldn't think there's too much VFX, but you know, we get away with some stuff to enhance things, and Ray did all that himself. Mark Tanner, our production designer, and Aaron Knight, our extraordinary costume designer. So, you know, in addition to the great cast, which everybody's able to see and, you know, comment on, we had an equally extraordinary team behind the scenes, which was just integral to the success of the movie and to me being able to do what I did as a director.
That's awesome to have a great, solid team with you.
It really is. Yeah, it's everything.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you getting on the phone with me.
If you like this video, feel free to check out more of my interviews right over here and click that subscribe button because I come out with new videos every week. See ya!